Hello everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews, back with another test disc for our videos Shawscope Volume 4 box set, releasing in December of 2025. We're almost finished now in terms of the collection, getting very close now to December as well, which is pretty bonkers. And by the time the last video comes out of this review series, the official box set will get an official release during that time. So hopefully these videos have been informative, helpful in terms of your decision making, in terms of the films. This is just my perspective, my thoughts and impressions. It's down to you whether you think these films are fun, wacky, something that you remember back in the day, something you want to explore in terms of this massive collection of 16 films of horror, supernatural, exploitation, heavy 70s, of really kind of weird and wonderful movies, but the quality and what these films represent to you is down to you in terms of an individual. So see what you think. Please comment down below. Let's keep that conversation going, guys. Just like my other previous test disc reviews and my standard reviews, I keep it real, I keep it honest, transparent. I give you my first honest thoughts and impressions on these films and the special features alongside it on the test disc editions I do receive. In terms of the special features here, unfortunately there is very little to talk about and kind of dive into. In terms of the first entry, in terms of the fake ghost catchers, there is no extras whatsoever, no audio commentary, no behind the scenes, no new interviews. No one had anything to say, just a brand new HD presentation of the original film, which looks pretty goddamn good. So that's the main thing you want to see in terms of the film. Unfortunately, no extra features, unless there is some on the bonus disc, which I'll hopefully get to very, very soon. Demon on the Lute, on the other hand, does have an audio commentary by the wonderful Frank Jen, which I did listen to quite a bit of it. Very insightful, very interesting, talking about his experiences in terms of going back to the Shaw Brothers set and being kicked out, and talking about the film itself in terms of the influence, what was going on during the time. As always, a very fun, delightful audio commentary by Frank, and definitely one of the highlights of the disc in terms of special features. So without further ado, let's dive into both films, The Fake Ghost Catchers and Demon of the Lute. This film here is The Fake Ghost Catchers, released in 1992, directed by Long Kar Wing, who did The Odd Couple and did do Skinny Tiger, Fatty Dragon, if I'm not mistaken. I have reviewed Skinny Tiger, Fat Dragon, which I didn't particularly like. I liked parts of that film. It definitely was more aimed in terms of an Aces Go Places type of comedy, Sammo Hung in it, but I did much prefer and did really love The Odd Couple, which did have Sammo Hung, which I thought was just a really delightful, really fun movie. And The Fake Ghost Catchers is interesting because the synopsis of the film, in terms of the information that's presented, is really selling this idea of this is the film before Ghostbusters. Essentially, it has a very similar kind of concept, but not quite. You know, the characters in the films refer themselves as Ghostbusters, and Ghostbusters released in 1984. This was 2 years prior. So they're kind of selling the film as, or who came up with the idea first and who influenced what, because usually big sinners in Hong Kong cinema with Golden Harvest and Shaw Brothers, that you tend to influence and copy or straight up rip off a lot of pop cultural films from the West, including Ghostbusters, Star Wars, etc., etc., even using scoring from many different types of films as well from the 70s onwards. Apart from just the name of Ghostbuster, you know, it's not exactly the most original, you know, name ever. You know, I'm pretty sure it's been used even way before the official Ghostbusters film came out. So it's just a coincidence, I think, if anything. Similar minds have think of similar ideas, executed in very different ways. So in terms of that comparison, that's about it. If anything, I would say the comparisons to The Fake Ghost Catchers are more in the line of Mr. Vampire, which did get released in 1985 as a Golden Harvest movie, the Shaw Brothers Golden Harvest. This was the kind of the booming time with Sammo Hung definitely taking some kind of charge in terms of that kind of supernatural kind of hijinks, big concept, bombastic, looking at something what the West were doing their take, but doing it in a more period setting, having weird and wonderful ideas in terms of hopping vampires and supernatural ghosts, practical effects, definitely kind of taking the scene for martial arts action set pieces with practical comedy, great characters alongside it. And I definitely would say The Fake Ghost Catchers were definitely one of the early ones through the door during that time in terms of doing something like this, which goes to show this definitely was in the zeitgeist, definitely was in the air from Shaw Brothers and Golden Harvest and the West. Supernatural movies during the 80s, where it's a full-blown kind of like Evil Dead inspired kind of body horror, which Shawscope definitely did explore, whether it's more of a silly kind of ghost comedy, which definitely this one is. And for what it's worth, the fake ghost catchers is actually not too bad. It's I think it's fine. Not terrible, not like anything amazing. It kind of loses its kind of charm and its steam during the middle portion of the film, which I'll get to in a minute. But in terms of the introduction, in terms of the opening, in terms of the gimmick, in terms of like having a series of scenarios with these fake ghost catchers, some familiar stars, some familiar actors, setting up a kind of a shaman kind of, you know, a ritual, which has lots of gimmickry and kind of special effects and sound and kind of thing and lighting, and just trying to con people out of their money, you know, for people that have recently died, having fake kind of backdrops and people being flying in the air. And the early portion of the comedy actually wasn't too bad. It wasn't slapstick or kind of silly or kind of goofy too much. It actually was just naturally kind of charmingly funny and comical, just down to the concept of the situation these characters are in, and introducing the concept of these fake ghost catchers, you know, presenting themselves as, you know, in contact with the spirit realm. And as to be expected, and what the film leads into, is a real life, in terms of the film, a ghost situation, a haunting, a possession. And you've got an introduction of these two characters. You've got a husband that has killed himself, and basically he wants to come back as a ghost to take revenge. And that is alluded to why, we don't know, but we find out as the film goes along, and basically comes back as an actual kind of nasty possession ghost, and terrorizing his wife, and killing monks in between. So there's other people that do get involved in this in terms of trying to stop this kind of really nasty entity, this real nasty kind of ghost, which is taking a possession of a body. And the monks try to stop it, which is a pretty fun little sequence in terms of using Buddha powers, which is something that Chinese Ghost Story would take to the extreme, the next level, within Chinese Ghost Story Part 2, I believe. And basically the stakes get a little bit higher. After their failed attempt, actually leads into a much more weirder and much more convoluted secondary storyline of the film, which is one of the brothers of the fake ghost catchers, which is robbing a grave and needs some money quick, and has this list going against government, I suppose, at the time. And we don't know what's on this list. We find out as the film goes along, and he kind of comes back into town, needs the assistance, and both these kind of two merging storylines kind of cross together in terms of the wife ghost, which is now kind of taking kind of possession of this kind of umbrella, which has been specially made for her. She's basically blackmailing these two fake ghost hunters to basically say, my sister's in danger. I need you to basically catch up to this location, and to stop the evil entity, the husband, and to save my sister. If you don't, I'm going to haunt you and terrorize you and potentially kill you. And it's sort of like a weird kind of alliance, sort of a partnership, almost in the vein of something like The Frighteners, something that Mr. Vampire would do in one of the later sequels as well, very similar kind of idea, a bit of a team up between the con artists and the real life ghost in the film. And adding another element to the film, we have Alexander Funchong, which is a fantastic actor, something he's been in quite a few films that I've really enjoyed, and he's playing this kind of peaking opera kind of performer, and he gets wrapped up in the situation, and at moments in the film, quite rapidly, I think, if I'm not mistaken, gets possessed by the wife, which takes over his body. And this leads into a hilarious ensue, and the comedy starts to go more slapstick and more silly and more feminine kind of, you know, in terms of gimmickry. And we lead into a ghost gambling sequence, which we all know from my last video and previous videos, gambling sequences, sex, violence, slapstick comedy, these are the golden points within Shaw Brothers and Golden Harvest. They are what is selling in the cinemas, and unfortunately the film deteriorates from that point onwards. It's a damn shame, because it had a pretty interesting kind of premise, an interesting kind of situation. Yeah, a little convoluted, a little bit unnecessary in terms of kind of beefing up the story. But the characters were charming, they're likable. There's some genuinely funny moments in the film, which is more than I can say for some of the others that I have seen so far. I would say my overall thoughts with the fake ghost catchers, I think, has a pretty good concept. It's nothing we haven't seen before, something that wouldn't be kind of redefined or kind of done better within much later films. Actually not too far away from this, being the fact this is 82, Mr. Vampire's 85, Sammo Hong doing Spooky Encounters. Definitely the supernatural comedy hijinks kung fu movies with extraordinary set pieces and practical effects. These were the booming films with Shaw Brothers and Golden Harvest, and this was again just another entry along that stepping stone. Not to take away from the value of the film, I think it has some pretty good stuff in it. I do like the characters. I do like some of the comedy before it gets a bit kind of, tick boxy, which I don't particularly like. Some of the kung fu stuff's pretty good. It's pretty violent in places, which surprises me. The villain starts to lose his impact in terms of being a menacing kind of, revenge ghost kind of villain character, and it kind of becomes a bit kind of, So yeah, not terrible, not great. Definitely worth checking out at the very least in terms of the set and see what you think going forward.
呢部係邵氏公司出品第一部童話武俠巨片。等我嚟介紹碌子琴魔啦！有一日出現咗兇兆，原來有個奸嘅大王利用個魔琴嚟作惡。
And last on the disc is from the director of Teng Chung Chung, which is the director of Demon of the Lute, released in 1993. This is a surprising entry in terms of being more designed for kids. We have a different intro in terms of the Shaw Brothers kind of, introduction. And it even says at the start of the film, dedicated to kids. This is a kids wuxia film, which is a pretty wacky, really cool idea. I don't think I've seen anything quite like this in terms of that space. And Shaw Brothers is known for doing the more adult-rated kind of movies, more the kind of the 15 young adults, kind of teenagers, maybe at a push. I don't think I've ever seen a kid's interpretation of one of these types of films before. Pretty cool idea, and it makes it very clear from the introduction, being a very kid-friendly, kind of cartoonish kind of intro with a pop cultural star at the time, singing a track, and it has a lot of kids involved in the film, and it's very bright, very colourful, and it's very wacky and all over the place. And it's funny because I listened to the audio commentary for Frank Jem, and it's basically mentioned at the same time of this, we had the Aces Go Places, we had, Project A coming out at the time, and of course we had not too far away from this, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of years before, we had Zulu Warriors of the Magic Mountain, and this film was a response to that film, do a kids version of that same idea, based on roughly the same source material alongside it. And that explains everything about this film. And this clip will explain that.
Sir, could we take a break for a while? It appears my intelligence circuits have melted.
Well, we're not going to get through them all, Crichton, if we take a second break.
Sir, that's a gamble I'm willing to take.
Yes, another one of these types of films again, a Shaw Brothers brain melt. My intelligence circuits have melted. A complete balls to the wall, Gunganja, whatever you want to call it, Geronimo, just throwing everything at the screen type of film with over-exposition, over-explainment of its story, not enough character development, and just a lot of wacky, very bright, colourful ideas. And if you're into this type of thing, if you like these types of films for an hour and 40, you're going to have an absolute blast. You're going to have a real fun time with this and get a lot out of it. And the one thing I would say, absolutely, similar to Zulu Warriors, if you see my review for that, similar to Jet Li's Kung Fu Cult Master, which is also based on the same material and source material, these films just are not for me. They just don't work. They are just far too much. And while I do appreciate the fuck out of the creativity and the wire works and the over-the-top characters and the character having a love heart scar on his cheek, the ridiculous costumes and some of the wuxia fighting work, it's all pretty fun, but it offers no substance. And if I want something like this, if I want this type of bombastic, crazy type of concept with characters, with a story, with something I can really get onto and attach to, I'll go and check out the wonderful Burning Paradise, which is gold standard for me in terms of Ringo Lam. This offers everything that I want in that type of concept. And unfortunately, something like Zulu Warriors, the Jet Li film, the Kung Fu Cult Master, and unfortunately Demon of the Lute falls into the same kind of category. The storyline for the film, I couldn't tell you. I don't know. It involves a bunch of kids. We have this mystical kind of quest to go and find this kind of crossbow. We have rainbow swords. We have some very familiar actors enjoying themselves, having a lot of fun. And we've got some henchmen, some minions of the Demon of the Lute coming in, terrorizing towns and people. And taking them on one by one. And I think it's just down to your preference. I think it's down to what you enjoy, what you get out of it. I'm not going to try and explain the story for this film because I just generally don't know. And I think the audio commentary from Frank Jen was definitely, for me, a lot more entertaining watching those visuals at times with his analysis and deep dive into his stories and what was going on behind the scenes of this film. I think the visual aspect with that commentary definitely adds a lot of value to me. But in terms of the film itself, completely does not work. And I think that is just down to personal preference and personal taste, and take that for what you will. So that's been my thoughts and impressions on The Fake Ghost Catchers and Demon of the Lute. Both very strange films, both offering some interesting kind of placement within very early 80s, 82, 83. And I'm curious to see what the last 3 films now are going to offer. So what's your thoughts and impressions on both these films, guys? Please comment down below. We'd love to keep this conversation going. So in the meantime, guys, Amphlett Reviews, signing out.